Midnight, the time when shadows come alive and the hospital halls echo with an eerie silence. Here, in the heart of the city, stands the hospital where I work, a symbol of hope. When the clock strikes 12, the hospital morphs into a strange entity. As a night shift worker, I navigate these sterile corridors while the world is asleep. I am the unseen protector amidst the beeping machines and occasional patient whimper. The job is isolating, yet crucial. The midnight shift harbors an eerie aura that elicits goosebumps. Strange incidents seem to happen more frequently when the world falls into slumber. Lights flicker, casting lively shadows. Ordinary sounds resonate, becoming unsettling. The hum of machines becomes whispers, the creaking structure into spectral footsteps. Then, there are the moving objects. Medical equipment, wheelchairs, trays, they seem to move by themselves. I've seen a wheelchair glide unaided, a tray of surgical tools rattle mysteriously. These events can make you question your sanity. However, I've always attributed it to exhaustion, my mind playing tricks from overwork. I denied any supernatural elements. Yet there came a night that started as any other but ended in a way that made me question everything. I always shrugged it as exhaustion, until the night that changed everything. It was a night like any other, until the heart monitor from an empty room broke the silence. A rhythmic beeping echoed through the deserted hospital wing, stirring my senses. As a hospital worker, I was trained to notice the unusual. This was one such instance. I decided to investigate. As I traversed the lonely corridors, the sound amplified, creating an eerie symphony. An unnatural chill permeated the air as I neared the room, an unsettling contrast to the otherwise hospital. I saw my breath in the frosty air as I approached the door. Pushing it open, I was greeted by an empty room, illuminated only by the austere light of the heart monitor. The room was eerily quiet, the only sound being my own footsteps amplified by the silence. An uncanny drop in temperature made me feel as if the room was holding its breath. The rhythmic beeping then transformed to a steady hum. The heart monitor. The room was submerged into an even deeper silence, a haunting tranquility. The room exhaled, seeming to release a pent-up breath. The silence swooped in, its icy fingers sending a chill down my spine. Suddenly a realization dawned on me. I was not alone. An unseen entity was present, a spectral patient haunting the abandoned wing. I shivered as the monitor flatlined, revealing a truth I was unprepared for. The hospital was not as empty as I had thought. There was something lurking in the shadows, something unseen, something that was watching, waiting. As the nights went on, the unseen entity became more restless, more tangible. An unsettling chill swept through the deserted corridors, transforming the comforting hum of hospital machines into a sinister melody. Medical tools stirred unaided, creating eerie sounds in the pristine rooms. Nightly, the spectral escalated, lights pulsing in tune with the ghostly cries. Each moment deepened the cold, transforming the hospital into a stage for an invisible, mysterious performance. An eerie dread filled every nook. Unable to ignore curiosity gnawing at me, I delved into ancient records, tales of patients long past. Each file revealed a life lived and then extinguished. In my search, I found an antiquated record. It narrated a patient's demise due to a grave error during the night, a symptom overlooked, an incorrect diagnosis, an untimely death. As I read on, fear quickened my heart. The name of the deceased patient was disturbingly familiar. Reading it again, I saw my own name glaring back from the yellowed paper. It had hit me like a punch. The unseen patient, the restless entity, it was me. I held the records and the name of the deceased patient was eerily familiar. It was mine. I stood frozen. The paper seemed to burn my fingers. The name stared back at me. It was my own. The room turned icy, but it was more than that. It was as if the cold had seeped into my marrow, changing the very rhythm of my heart. I was numbed, not just by the cold but by the shocking alive. I was supposed to be, or so I thought. Frantically I dove back into the documents, my eyes hungrily scanning each line for an error. Each paper was an eerie reflection of thee that was slowly sinking in. I hoped for any excuse, minor slip-up, anything that would refute the horrifying reality I was piecing together. I started to see a terrifying pattern. The unexplained disturbances, the peculiar chill in certain rooms, the strange noises, they all pointed back to me. I was the anomaly, these inexplicable events. The hospital, my colleagues, the patients, they were all part of a world I had been abruptly torn from. The realization crashed onto me with a gut-wrenching force. This wasn't the tale of a living person brushing against the spiritual realm, it was far more sinister. I was the apparition, the invisible presence haunting the hospital corridors. The of the puzzle clicked together, painting a picture. I was the haunter, not the haunted, a spectral being trapped in the wrong plane of existence. I was not the living experiencing the dead, I was the dead, trapped in the realm of the living. I was a ghost, a lost soul, and I didn't even know it. This revelation reverberated in the hauntingly quiet hospital corridors, sending shivers down my spectral spine. The life I once led, my colleagues, the patients, they all belonged to a realm I'd been abruptly ejected from. Now trapped in this ethereal twilight zone, I found myself trying to communicate, but it was akin to screaming in a vacuum. Anchored to this location by a tangle of unresolved mysteries, I felt like a ship lost at sea. My memories were scattered pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, disorganized and incomplete. I had to put them together to understand why I was confined to this spectral existence. I wandered through the hospital unseen and unheard, a silent specter observing the living world. Witnessing joy, despair, lives saved and lives lost, I was a spectator in a game I once actively in. My own life, however, ended while I was still in my prime. I found myself inexplicably drawn to a dark operating theater, ran down my spine as I realized this was where my journey had come to an abrupt end. But my story wasn't over. The truth behind my untimely demise was still hidden, obscured by the fog memories. It was this truth that held the key to understanding why I was trapped in this spectral existence. With a heavy, non-beating heart, I turned to face the hospital, ready to uncover the truth of my death and my unfinished business. In the dead of night, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the empty hallways of the abandoned hospital. There's a tangible sense of dread that clings to the peeling wallpaper and the cold, sterile tiles of this forsaken place. It's a place where the living have long since departed, but the past refuses to do the same. Every creak of the ancient floorboards, every whisper of wind through shattered windows, seems to carry the echoes of 1,000 untold stories. I remember it was a night just like this when I experienced something that chilled me to my core. A door, previously ajar, slammed shut with a force that made the whole building shudder. The chill that followed was a stark reminder of the unseen presence lurking in the shadows. The silence that followed was deafening, making the sudden interruption all the more chilling. I knew then I was not alone in this forsaken place. The hospital held many secrets that I was about to unravel. As I ventured deeper into the hospital, the unsettling finds began to pile up. Tucked away in forgotten corners, I stumbled upon old medical records, their pages yellowed with age. They whispered tales of patients long gone, their stories frozen in time, their outcomes shrouded in mystery. In some rooms, I noticed bloodstains, stubborn remnants that refused to be washed away. A chilling reminder of the countless lives that had been fought for and perhaps lost within these walls. The hospital was a chilling labyrinth, a maze of corridors, rooms, and memories. Each corner held a new discovery, each room a new chapter in the hospital's history. It was a place of healing, a place of pain, and now, a place of haunting silence. As I delved deeper, the temperature seemed to drop inexplicably. Cold spots punctuated the hospital, spots where the chill of the air seemed to seep into my very bones. It was as if these spots were holding on to some spectral energy, remnants of the past that refused to let go. But what was truly unnerving was the feeling that I was not alone. I could sense a presence, a silent observer trailing me through the eerie silence. It was a sensation that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, a prickling feeling that told me I was being watched. I could feel its eyes on me, the silent observer, the unseen companion. It was as if the hospital itself was watching me, following my every step, my every breath. It was a presence that was both intriguing and disturbing, a presence that seemed tied to the very fabric of the hospital. The more I discovered, the more I felt a growing sense of unease. It was as if the hospital was resisting, holding on to its secrets with a stubborn tenacity. The deeper I delved, the stronger the resistance, the stronger the sense of unease. The more I discovered, the more I felt like something didn't want me there. As I dug deeper, I realized that the hospital's history was shrouded in darkness. The hospital's past was a grim tale, a grotesque tableau that highlighted the bleakest aspects of human nature. The walls of this seemingly benign institution held stories that would send chills down the spine of even the most stoic among us. I uncovered a series of shocking incidents, cases of malpractice were rife, with records of procedures performed by unqualified personnel. There were instances of neglect, where patients were left to suffer without any medical attention. But what made the blood run cold were the numerous accounts of patient disappearances. People admitted for minor ailments were never seen or heard from again, their files mysteriously wiped clean from the hospital's records. In the heart of the hospital, I stumbled upon a hidden room. It was an abhorrent testament to the hospital's dark past. This clandestine chamber was used for illegal surgeries. The room bore marks of countless operations, each one a violation of the Hippocratic Oath. There were no records of these procedures, no trace in the hospital's official documents. It was as if this room was a spectral entity, existing in a realm separate from the rest of the hospital. A chilling reminder of a time when the very place that was meant to heal became a house of horrors. The hospital's past was a horrifying tale of humanity's darkest hour. I could feel it, something was watching me. The air was thick with an unseen presence, a spectral weight that seemed to push against the very walls of the hospital. It was as if the building itself was alive, pulsating with a dark energy that was both fascinating and terrifying. The paranormal activities began to escalate, each event more chilling and inexplicable than the last. Whispers began to permeate the silence, their origins unclear. They danced on the edge of audibility, just beyond the reach of comprehension, yet there was an undeniable sense of intent behind them, a purpose that was as disconcerting as the disembodied voices themselves. Objects too began to rebel against the laws of physics. They moved on their own accord, sliding across surfaces or falling to the floor with no visible force propelling them. It was as if an invisible hand was playing a macabre game, manipulating the environment to instill fear and unsettlement. Shadowy figures began to appear, always just out of direct sight. They lurked in the periphery, their forms indistinct and elusive, yet their presence was palpable, an unliving specter that seemed to be watching, waiting. The sense of being observed was relentless, a constant reminder that I was not alone. As the darkness deepened, so too did the sense of dread. The hospital had transformed into a theater of the macabre, a stage for a performance of the supernatural. I was caught in a chilling ballet of unseen forces, a puppet in their spectral play. I was in the presence of something not of this world. And then, the unthinkable happened. The walls of the hospital began to echo with a familiarity that was both unsettling and uncanny. The sterile smell, the cold touch of the metal equipment, the relentless beep of the heart monitor ..ite, all started to come back to me. Shadows of my own past started to seep into my present, blurring the lines between reality and the supernatural. The spectral figures I had encountered, the eerie whispers that filled the air, the inexplicable happenings, they all started to take on a new meaning. Every corner of the hospital, every creak of its worn-out floors, every flicker of its dim lights, they all bore witness to my own history. I was not just a spectator to these paranormal occurrences, I was an unwilling participant, reliving fragments of my own life, or rather my past life. The chilling truth finally dawned upon me. The hospital, the haunting, the inexplicable terror ..it was all a reflection of my own past. The hospital was not just a building, it was a monument to my life and my death. The specters were not unfamiliar entities, they were echoes of my own existence, trapped in the endless loop of time and space. The hospital was my final resting place. I was not just a visitor, I was a permanent resident. I was a former patient who had breathed his last within these very walls. The hospital was not haunted by unknown spirits, it was haunted by me. The cold realization washed over me like a wave of icy water. The terror, the fear, the dread ..it was all rooted in the harsh reality of my own demise. I was not living a nightmare, I was living my own death, over and over again. The hospital, with its dark corridors and eerie silence, was not just a building, it was my tomb, my eternal prison. I was not merely observing the haunting, I was the haunting. In the end, I was not just a visitor in this hospital, I was a part of its dark past. Ever imagine the unthinkable, the utterly impossible happening right before your eyes? Picture this, a routine operation, as normal as any other day. The sterile scent of the hospital, the rhythmic hum of machines monitoring life, the anticipatory rustle of gowns and gloves. All was as it should be until it wasn't. The patient lay prone on the table, awaiting the surgeon's hand. A woman, in the prime of life, her heart beating steadily under the surgeon's skilled fingers, her breaths counted and measured by the machines that surrounded her. It was supposed to be a simple procedure, a matter of routine, a dance that I, as a surgeon, had performed countless times before, but, as the saying goes, man proposes, God disposes. As my scalpel sliced through the layers of skin, muscle and tissue, a hush fell over the operating room. It wasn't the silence of concentration, it was the silence of shock, of disbelief. For there, where there should have been the pulsating rhythm of life, was a void, an emptiness that defied logic, that defied understanding. The heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, everything that makes us human, everything that makes us alive was missing. My mind spun as I tried to comprehend what I was seeing. It was impossible, a nightmare unfolding in the harsh light of the operating room. The room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in, the lights too bright, the air too thin. My hands trembled, my heart pounded in my chest like a drum. I could hear the blood rushing in my ears, a tsunami of confusion and fear. The team around me mirrored my shock, eyes wide, mouths agape. No one dared to move, to breathe, to break the spell of this horrifying discovery. It was as if we had stumbled upon a secret, a dark and terrible secret that was not meant for human eyes. As I stared into the hollow cavity, I could only wonder, where were her organs? Could you conceive a living being devoid of a heart, of blood, of the very essence of life? This was the question that haunted my every waking moment as I delved deeper into the peculiar case that had befallen me. As a surgeon, my duty lies in the exploration of the human body to mend and heal where I can. But this was different. This was a journey into an abyss, a body without a heart. The patient's medical records were as perplexing as her physical state. Details were scarce, inconsistent, and deeply unsettling. Each page I turned seemed to whisper a dreadful secret, a tale of a life lived without life's most fundamental elements. The patient, a woman of indeterminate age, had no history of heart disease, no transplants, no surgeries, yet here she was, lying on my operating table, a living paradox. The chill of fear began to creep into my bones, but fear of the unknown is a powerful motivator, and I found myself drawn further into the patient's enigmatic history. As I pieced together the fragments of her past, I stumbled upon a chilling fact. There were accounts, rumors really, of her having lived for centuries, of her being seen in different eras, never aging, never changing. Each account was a mirror image of the woman on my table. The same face, the same eyes, the same inexplicable existence. The rational part of my mind screamed for a logical explanation, a medical anomaly perhaps, but the deeper I delved, the more I found myself discarding my scientific beliefs, my skepticism. The evidence, or rather the lack of it, was steering me towards something I had always dismissed: the supernatural. Could it be possible? Could the stories be true? Could this woman truly exist without a heart, without blood, without life coursing through her veins? The more I discovered, the more I found myself teetering on the edge of reason, staring into the abyss of the unknown. Every piece of evidence, or rather the lack thereof, led me down a path I never thought I'd tread, the realm of the supernatural. What would you do if you found yourself face to face with the inexplicable? As the words left my mouth, they hung heavy in the sterile air of the operating room. A body, devoid of life's essential elements, lay before me. I was a surgeon, a healer, but in that moment, I felt like an explorer on the precipice of a new frontier. I delved into medical literature, scouring for similar occurrences. Hours turned into days, and the hospital's silence became my only companion. Every case I unearthed was a cold reminder that science often fails to explain the mysteries of life. One night, while buried in a dusty tome of forgotten medical anomalies, I stumbled upon a chilling account from the late 1800s. A surgeon, much like myself, reported a case eerily similar to mine. His patient, too, lacked the vital organs yet seemed to exist beyond the realm of the living. I was spiraling down a rabbit hole, with every discovery more bone-chilling than the last. Can you fathom the terror of confronting an entity that defies all laws of nature? That's exactly the dread that seized me as I stood there, frozen in the stark white sterility of the operating room. The patient on the table was not just a medical anomaly, but a being that challenged the very fabric of our understanding. Under the harsh, unforgiving glare of the surgical lights, it became clear that this was not a human patient at all. The absence of a heartbeat, the lack of blood, the void where vital organs should have been, these were not symptoms of a disease but signs of an otherworldly existence. An existence that was now lying bare, exposed on the surgical table. The reality was more terrifying than any science fiction. I was not in the presence of a patient, but an entity, an anomaly that was not of our world. As I stood there facing the impossible, I could only wish it were a nightmare, but it wasn't. It was my horrifying reality. A chill runs down my spine as I cross the threshold of the long-abandoned hospital. A sense of unease greets me, a feeling akin to stepping into a forgotten world. The once bustling corridors now lay eerily silent, a testament to the passage of time. The walls, once pristine and white, are now marred by peeling paint and creeping mold, a stark contrast to the sterility they once represented. The air is heavy, filled with the lingering scent of antiseptics, now tainted by the mustiness of decay. Each breath I take is a reminder of the hospital's past, a whiff of the forgotten battles fought against disease and death. My footsteps echo through the desolate corridors, the sound bouncing off the cracked tiles, amplifying the solitude. It's as if every step I take is a disruption, a violation of the silence that has claimed this place for its own. The echo reverberates, a haunting refrain that seems to grow louder with each passing second. As I delve deeper into the hospital, the atmosphere grows increasingly chilling. The dim light filtering in through the grimy windows casts long, distorted shadows, creating a macabre dance of darkness and light. The once familiar objects, rusted wheelchairs, overturned gurneys, now appear as grotesque sculptures, twisted by time and neglect. The silence is oppressive, wrapping around me like a shroud. It's a silence that's almost tangible, a silence that seems to whisper tales of despair and loss. Each room I pass is a silent witness to stories untold, stories that ended abruptly, leaving behind an echo of sorrow. The further I venture, the more pronounced the sense of dread becomes. It's as if the hospital itself is alive, its pulse quickening with my every step, its breath cold against my skin. Just as I'm about to shake off the growing sense of unease, a sudden icy gust of wind sends papers flying, and a door slams shut in the distance. The sound shatters the silence, a harsh reminder of the reality I'm in. It's a sound that resonates, a sound that brings with it a chilling realization. I'm not alone in this forgotten world. The deafening silence is shattered as a low, guttural growl echoes through the hallways. My senses sharpen, my heart pounding like a war drum in my chest as I realize I am not alone in this forsaken place. A chill, alien and uninvited, creeps up my spine, its icy fingers grasping at the very core of my being. The air grows heavy, thick with an invisible dread that wraps around me, a shroud of fear that I can't shake off. I can't see it, but I can feel it. An unseen presence, lurking just beyond the corner of my eye, a phantom in the shadows. The shadows themselves seem to dance and twist in a macabre ballet, their forms contorting into grotesque silhouettes that defy the laws of physics. They move with a life of their own, their dark tendrils reaching out, brushing against the cold, sterile walls of the hospital, as if searching for something, or someone. The temperature fluctuates wildly, creating pockets of cold so intense they seem to freeze the very air I breathe. The cold spots are a stark contrast to the otherwise stuffy, stagnant air of the abandoned hospital, a reminder of the unnatural phenomena unfolding around me. Drawn by a dim, flickering light at the end of the corridor, I venture forth, each step echoing ominously in the silence. The light bulb swings lazily from a frayed wire, casting long, trembling shadows that dance across the room. The growl seems to originate from this room, a low, ominous rumble that sends shivers down my spine. There's something about this room, something that sets it apart from the rest of the hospital. It's as if the very walls are alive, whispering secrets of times long past, secrets that were meant to stay buried. The flickering bulb, the last vestige of light in this sea of darkness, seems to pulse in time with the growl, a haunting rhythm that reverberates through the room. As I step into the room, the light bulb flickers and dies out, plunging me into darkness. In the pitch black, my hand brushes against something cold and metallic. A shiver runs down my spine as I realize what I've stumbled upon, an old, dust-covered audio recording device. The unexpected discovery feels like a relic from a forgotten era, a chilling testament to the hospital's shadowed past. My heart beats in my ears as I hesitantly press play. A crackle of static fills the air before a voice cuts through the noise. A doctor's voice, strained and weary. The voice begins to recount a tale from years past, an experimental procedure, a desperate attempt to push the boundaries of medical science. As the story unfolds, a chill creeps into my bones. The doctor speaks of a patient, nameless and faceless, subjected to an operation that defies the laws of nature and ethics. The doctor's voice quivers as he describes the unspeakable horrors that ensued. The experiment, it seemed, had gone horribly wrong. The revelation is like a punch to the gut. This abandoned hospital, once a beacon of healing, was the stage for unimaginable terror. The walls that now crumbled and decayed once echoed with cries of pain and despair. The truth of the hospital's dark past was far more terrifying than any ghost story. The voice on the recorder trails off, leaving only the sound of ragged breathing. A bone-chilling scream fills the air, drowning out the sound of the recorder. Panic surges through me as I scramble desperately through the maze-like corridors of the forsaken hospital. The air grows colder, the spectral entity's pursuit intensifying with each passing moment. My heart pounds in my chest, a frenzied drumbeat echoing in the oppressive silence. The exit is within reach, freedom a tantalizing breath away. But then, just as I see the exit, a force yanks me back into the darkness.